and welcome to Miss Bailey's Daily Dose. Today we are going to be learning to divide. So this is a division sign if you have not seen it before, and some of the vocab that goes with division in reasoning questions might be divide, groups of, shared equally, and that equal bit's really important, and divisible by. Now when we're looking at a division calculation, the vocab is slightly different to the multiplication one. So when we did a multiplication, it was factor multiplied by the factor equals the product. Now on this one, for a division, the first number in division, the one before that division sign, is called the dividend. That's the number that's going to be divided. The divisor is the number that goes after the division sign. And then after the equal sign, the answer is called the quotient. So we've got dividend at the front divided by the divisor equals the quotient. So for this calculation, the calculation would be 10 divided by 2. So when I'm looking at this with my children, I will say, right, how many things do we have? Well, we have 10 things, that's the dividend. And how many people are we dividing it by? Well, we're dividing it by the divisor, which is 2. So the way to do this is to draw 10 dots. So I've drawn 10 dots here. And because I'm dividing it by 2 people, I've got to imagine that I've got 2 people. So I can draw it using groups. I tend to use squares because if I use circles, sometimes the children get confused with multiplication. If they don't get confused, it's fine. They can do big groups of circles like when we do multiplication. So unlike multiplication, I'm not then going to put the 10 dots in each box. I've got to divide. So I've got to imagine that I've got 10 sweets here and I'm going 1 for you, 1 for you. So what I do is I cross the first dot off and I put it in the first group. And then I'm going to do the same, but I've got to share them. So I've got to now put it in the other group. And then I keep doing it. I cross it off, I put it in the first group. I cross the next one off, put it in the second group. And I keep going until none of my dots are left. I'm done now. Now the misconception that lots of the children make is they then count up all the dots again. And they'll say 10 divided by 2 is 10 because look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How I remind my children to divide correctly is to remember that they only need to count one of those groups. Because when we share something equally, each group will have the same amount in it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my quotient is 5. Now, if the children know their number facts really well, they don't have to do the dots. And especially as the numbers go up, you don't want to be, for example, if you're doing 100 divided by 10, you don't want to be counting out 100 dots. There's no way we can do that. So instead, you can use your fingers. So the calculation, like we said, was 10 divided by 2. That's the same as saying how many of the divisor, how many 2s go into 10. So that means we're counting 2s all the way up until we get to 10. And we can do that on our fingers. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And my answer again is still 5. And I can show that using my fingers. So I can count in 2s. And you can see I've got 5 fingers. Not a very good hand there, but I've got 5 fingers and it gets to 10. So we're going to see whether we can do this one now. Again, the divisor's changed. So instead of being 2, the divisor's now 10. And the same principle works. So I've got 20 divided by 10. I'm going to circle the dividend, which is 20, and I need to draw 20 dots. So if I'm doing it the dot way, I'm going to draw 20 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Just like that. Now I've got to remember that now my divisor is 10. So I don't need 2 groups anymore, I need 10 groups. So again, squares, and I need to draw 10 of them. Hopefully I'll be able to fit them in. I've done my 10 groups, and now I need to share those sweets out. So cross one off, put one in, cross one off, put one in, cross one off, put one in, cross one off, put one in. And the thing that a lot of the children make a mistake in is they'll start giving all of their dots or all of their sweets to the first group. they've got to make sure they're sharing it out. So you can see here, there is 1 dot in every group. Now, when I'm crossing off, I'm going back to the first group again. So I'm crossing off, putting in, crossing off, putting in, crossing off, and crossing it off is really important as well. So children can see that those sweets have been shared out. So I've crossed all my sweets off, and you can see how many I've got in each of those groups. And I only count one of the groups. So 1, 2. So I know that 20 divided by 10 is 2. Like we did before, if the children know how to count in tens, they don't need to bother doing the dots in the groups, because what they can do instead is they can say how many of this 10 goes into 20. We can count in tens on our fingers, 10, 20, and we get the answer 2. Another thing when we're divided by 10 is that the place value of those digits moves. So, for example, the number 20 has 2 10s and 0 1s. When we divide a number by 10, that 2 moves to the right. So it's moving to the right, and therefore it's turning from a 10 to a 1. So if I move it to the right, you can see that the 2 has moved to the right hand side, and it's now in the ones column, so it becomes 2. So see if you can have a little turn with some of the examples that I've put below. You can either use your groups and dots, or you can use your fingers and your number facts. Thank you.